Welcome to The Real Build. This is Jamila, your host, and I'm lucky enough to have my co-host with me today, Andrei. Thanks for coming.
Hello again.
We have some fun, hey?
Yeah.
We have been talking a lot on this show, empowering people to develop their own properties.
Yeah. Make use of what you already have.
And the reason why we've talked a lot about this in different episodes is because it's probably one of the biggest real estate opportunities out there right now for a lot of good reasons. One, the governments are supporting it. Municipal government, provincial government, federal government. This is really how they see a big fill to the housing need that we have in all of our cities across Canada.
Infill development is definitely going to make a dent in that.
And so when you have all these governments and municipalities on your side, all that red tape you may have heard of in the past, those hurdles to get through to make projects happen, that's all kind of lifted and disappeared. And it's really actually quite fun doing projects now where you have the support of your cities and your neighbors, because we all know how much we need more housing.
Yeah, it's definitely gone from being a battle to definitely more collaborative.
Yeah.
And it seems like even on a federal level, that's going to continue to be the trend.
Absolutely. I mean, I say absolutely, but I don't have any control over federal governments. But I do think that is the trend.
I think we're going to continue to see a streamlining of the development process. So it's not so much of a conflict as it is a resolution towards something.
So if we bring it home to the Okanagan Valley, the reason why this is such a great opportunity is we've got the perfect storm of all of this support. And then we have a buyer's market right now. So we have a bit of a flat real estate market. We've just gone through some significant growth in property values. So if you've a long stay single family homeowner in this city that you've had your home for 10, 15, 20 years, you've seen a really good increase in value. Yep. And the reason why we say that's important is because you've got this equity that you can utilize to your redevelopment dreams.
That's right.
And we have gone through the craziness of supply and demand on labor, and that's kind of relieved the pressure. So there's people out there that can work. There's materials available to go back to regulating timelines and having a bit more control over the project.
Yeah.
And so it is, in my professional opinion, a great time to pursue developing your own property.
Yeah, I agree. Now's a pretty good time to do that.
So today we want to talk about the very, 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 very beginning conceptual process on doing this before you get into paying or engaging anyone, and what free resources are out there for you to brainstorm your ideas and see if it's feasible. And what we want to start out with is your why.
Yeah. So this whole section, I think we can kind of summarize it down as like a pre-planning.
Yeah.
So it's before you, like you said, before you start spending money. So the why, I think, is an important part in any development. Is why are you doing this? And there could be tons of reasons. Maybe you want to put a carriage house in your backyard so that your kids can take over the main home and you can live in the carriage house in the same neighborhood.
And this is, we did a whole show on reinventing downsizing, right? Instead of leaving your neighborhood and, selling your home and then spending all your money to buy a condo. It used to be really great because you could sell your home, buy a condo, and then also buy a condo in Mexico and live out your dreams. Yeah. But money doesn't go as far as it used to go.
Yeah.
And
people are tied to their neighborhoods. I think more and more people like where they live. They don't want to go across the bridge, for example, where you have more affordable products, but you have to deal with that bridge traffic that some of us don't like.
And most people actually have neighbors they enjoy.
True.
And they've built a life there.
Yeah.
And so by developing something in your backyard or front yard or on top of the garage, you can easily create that downsizing space for yourself. And you can do that using the equity you already have in the home.
Yep.
And you can increase your net worth and generational wealth.
Yeah.
Other reasons is housing for family members.
For family
or
members.
friends, family members
Yep.
that might be struggling with getting into the market.
And there's also the kind of the investment aspect of it as well. If you have a single family home and you've got one house on that piece of land that you're renting out, well, now you could add an additional 2, 3, 4 units. Sometimes it depends on the area that you're in, but you could add additional housing units to that land and therefore increase the yield that you're getting on that property.
If you're already an investor, you already have this rental house that's been in the family.
Yeah, you already have the land, right? So there's no additional land cost
Yeah.
in that respect. It's all just building costs.
So adding to your existing portfolio and increasing your rental income.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the last, we are actually talking to different clients with all of these goals in mind in their pre-planning right now. So that's why we bring them up, because we know people are thinking about this. Also, life's expensive now. You may have set your monthly living expenses by buying your house 30 years ago and having your mortgage paid off and groceries are more and all this stuff is more.
Yeah.
Well, you might be sitting on a piece of property that can help generate some additional monthly income for you.
Exactly.
And open up more lifestyle choices.
Exactly.
Yeah. Now, so we all know that 90% of us, I don't know if that's a real stat. That's my stat I pulled out of the air. I got to be careful with that now that I'm on the radio talking to people. But most of us buy property very emotionally or come up with concepts that are very emotional.
Yeah.
That attach to your why you're going to do it. So the first step is to figure out, why. And it's important to be emotionally attached to this investment because it is a process. There's lots of money going back and forth. There's time involved in making this happen. There's going to be ups and downs through that process. So if you don't have an emotional attachment to the outcome,
to it. Yeah.
you need that. So you got to find your why. And your why can be making more money. That's fine too.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Right? So, but then you have to also factor in the business strategy and plan to it, right? So
yeah, so in this conceptual kind of stage where we're talking about right now, you figured out your why, kind of the goal of what you're trying to build. The next step is to kind of start thinking and designing and conceptually planning a property development that suits your why, but I would argue is also financially responsible or an investment for the longer term.
So if the why is housing for a family member, elderly parents or children, and maybe they don't stay there for the rest of their lives and they finish using the property in 5 years or 10 years.
Right.
How is that property a financially positive impact after that
That's exactly
is executed?
Right. That's exactly right. Yeah. So if the primary use of that property that you created in your backyard was to house your elderly parents, but they have kind of moved away from the property, then you still want like a marketable asset that you can rent out or that you can sell or that you can do something else with that isn't so, purpose built for that primary use. And
it's important to understand too that you can develop them as rental properties, but you can stratify them and sell them off individually without selling off the whole package too. So today we're going to dive more into what professionals you can go and chat with totally for free on your initial concepts and what information you can expect back from them that will help you move forward in this process. So stay tuned. We're going to talk about that next. Welcome back to The Real Build. I'm your host, Jamila, and I have my co-host with me here today, Andrei. Thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me again.
Anytime. So Andrei and I, we've been in the construction development industry for, going on probably 10 years apiece now.
Getting close.
We've built out fourplexes in this city, recently a condo building in this city.
That's
so
right.
We just wanted to drop that in there. We have a little bit of experience in this
just
area.
a touch.
But today we're talking about developing your own land because of this unique opportunity there is right now for existing people that own single family homes in this city. West Kelowna, Penticton, Summerland, Kelowna, Lake Country, right across the board. Every municipality has densified single family home land. So there's opportunities there. And a lot of people have really great reasons why, like family compound,
Yep.
friends compound,
Yep.
your chosen family,
Additional rental income.
downsizing. There's a lot of reasons why. And but it's important that what you're building is also financially feasible and that you're able to do that research in your beginning stages to make sure that this project can actually happen. So next we want to talk about who you can go talk to absolutely free and maybe some things you can Google search and find to help you further your idea of creating this in your backyard.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think we've touched on this in the past, but every analysis that I've done, it always starts on the municipality's mapping site.
Yeah.
Just because you can get a lot of information about the property from each like GIS that the city provides, and you can walk into the various meetings that we're about to talk to with a bit more knowledge than just, here's my property. So the municipal site and the municipal maps is a place where you can see servicing, you can see road dedications, you can see what other people are building within the area, and that's always just a great place to start.
And if you're like me and you're on the cusp of technology and you went to school without Facebook and a phone in your back pocket, it took me way too long than I want to admit to really understand how to maneuver through municipal websites and the mapping system. So there is human resources.
Yes.
If you go to the city, there is a planning counter. Usually it's like a planning or building or development information counter.
Yep.
With a person sitting there. If you're in West Kelowna, you just got a huge brand new facility. It's
That's true.
super nice.
That's
you got to go
true.
check it out. And they can, they will most likely pull up the mapping system and enter your address in, and they can show you the information on there and what's available to you. It will give you, you'll be able to measure out generally your lot size. That comes with a disclaimer, because until you have an actual legal survey, which is not really what the mapping system's fully based on.
No.
So it's a general size. It's not something to...
They're relatively accurate, but you always need a survey to verify them.
Yeah. Don't start designing your house without the survey.
No.
But they can give you a size. The size then with, taking a tape measure outside and measuring out your house footprint, you can come up with what your available buildable area is. So you could see what your square footage box could be that you could add to that property. They can go through your zoning bylaw. And
That's an important one.
And let you know what setbacks are.
Yeah, so that planning counter is going to be able to essentially tell you information so that your development can conform to the bylaws that are already pre-existing at your city.
Now, things that a beginner may not know to ask, and this comes with just experience of doing projects, is the city going to require land dedication?
Yes.
For future sidewalks that are going through, or maybe there is a servicing covenant on your land you may not be fully aware of, or you may have had an idea that existed, but you weren't really sure. So asking about, if I did do something to this project, will the city require me to do land dedication, and what is the street frontage requirements for my property?
Yeah.
Because then you could find out, they might want you to put sidewalk in. They might want you to upgrade to a curb. There might be a landscaping finishing boulevard that they require.
Yep.
It's not a reason to stop doing the project. These things is extremely common and is factored into every project I've ever done. And it's just, again, something you just factor into your numbers. But it can be shocking if you've gone and you've had these conversations at the city, and you may not have asked the question. They may not have brought it up because you didn't ask the question. And then you find out later that that's something like that.
And I mean, servicing is the same kind of thing, working with the utility providers. They might want to see an upgraded transformer. Mm-hmm. And if you're the first one on the block, you're going to float that bill until other people join. So asking questions at the city counter is a great, quick way to get a bunch of, entry-level knowledge and parameters for what you can build.
Yeah.
And they'll also be able to point you in the direction for other questions that you may or may not have even thought of. So like roads, like the city roads department will be able to tell you, access to the site during construction, or even access for your finished product.
Adding a new driveway.
Like yeah. Development engineering. So that's going to be your servicing, what that all looks like, your water and your sewer, whether any of those need to be upgraded. So the city counter is going to have contacts that they can give you for each of these departments that you can then use.
Yeah. And it's important to understand, that the people at the city counter, they're not a development consultant or there to create your business plan for you. They're, as we talked about when we were discussing this, they're a bylaw consultant, right? Mm-hmm. They can tell you, this is your vision, this is what you can and cannot do within the bylaws.
Yep.
Well, there is also variances that you can apply for. And some bylaws you can't, some bylaws you can. And again, this is where professionals in the industry can understand where you can push the boundaries a little bit and what that risk means and what could potentially go through and could not go through.
Yeah, so I mean, like the logical next step, just tying into what you're saying, is a draftsperson.
Yeah.
So the draftsperson is going to help you design your house. They're definitely more on the artistic side than on the financial side.
Yes.
But they have enough experience, usually, that they can say, okay, this is a variance that we'll need to apply for, but typically these variances are accepted.
So some questions to ask when vetting a drafting person or calling a drafting company or an architect is, have you designed an infill project before?
Yeah, that's a good...
in my city, Kelowna, West Kelowna, Peachland, Penticton, because every municipality is slightly different. They have slightly different zoning bylaws.
Yes.
They have different OCPs. And so if they have designed something within that city before, they've kind of gone through the process and they have worked out some kinks, and they would have more valuable information for you than someone who maybe hasn't.
Absolutely.
Not necessarily that they can't do it, they just might have a little bit more valuable information.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And so, that's kind of covers the draftsperson. And again, they're more on the artistic side. They will help you design exactly what you want.
Yes.
But it's also important to kind of keep the numbers in mind when you are doing a design. And that kind of leads us to the next person, which would be a builder.
Yeah. A drafting person will understand like an average cost per square foot that they're getting from either, some BC calculated information or other builders they're working with. But this number is always kind of changing and evolving. And so you do want to consult a builder. We're going to talk more about that next and what to ask and who else you can have conversations with for free. Off the top when you're trying to figure out your concept design of developing your land. Stay tuned. Welcome back to The Real Build. I'm your host, Jamila, and I've got my wonderful co-host with me today, Mr. Andrei. Thank you for coming.
Thanks for having me.
We need a new way to introduce ourselves like that, I think. We do that the same every time. We might need to change it up next time.
I agree. Yeah, we got to work on that one.
So today we are talking about developing your own property. We've talked about having a why, whether you're creating a home for downsizing, an amazing family compound or chosen family compound with your friends. If you want to stratify and sell some units off to get some money in the bank, or if you have an existing rental property that is a cash flowing producing asset and you want to add a few more cash flowing producing assets to the backyard, you don't have to tear down the original asset. You can add to it.
That's honestly one of my favorites.
I love that one too.
I love that idea because, like, if you've got a single family house with land and you're able to do a development like this, like, you're not necessarily going to get more rent for the single family house because you have a bigger backyard.
Yeah.
Like, I don't believe that you're going to get such a huge differential or loss of income by putting extra developments in the back. Definitely not for the tune of the rental income that you would be getting from those 2 new units in the back.
And the reality is that you're still going to have yard space.
You're still going to have yard space. And the land cost is already like a sunken cost. It's already a cost that you've paid for that property. So yeah, I just think that's such a grand slam for people to do.
100%. And we love this also because we do own our own rental properties and we're like, whew, what can I add here?
Yeah.
And there's some people, if you've owned rental properties and maybe it's a family rental property that's been passed down and it's a big lot, like Lakeview Heights. Big lots out there. Even older Mission still has some large lots.
Lower Mission has huge lots.
Sometimes you can even subdivide another lot off of that thing.
That's a little more complex, but yes. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Anyway, so we don't want to get complicated on this show today. We'll get complicated next time.
Absolutely.
So, okay, you've got your why. Now, what we want to do is give you the information of who you can talk to for absolutely for free with your concept and get some ideas to see if it's feasible and what information to expect from these people as well is important, because if your expectations are too high, you might get frustrated.
You will get frustrated for sure.
So the municipal city online mapping system and both the front counter to start discussing your concept. To summarize that up, they are bylaw specialists. They understand their own bylaws and they can tell you what you can and cannot do within their system. And as a professional, there's more questions you can ask that can guide things in a different way.
Yeah. And you can get direction on who to go to next.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Drafting and architects, designers. So to kind of sum up that, you can pick up the phone and talk to a drafting company or designer. I recommend asking if they've ever designed an infill project in your city before. They will just have, not that they're better or worse than anyone else, they will just have a little bit more inside information on that process for you.
Yep.
Keeping in mind that they are wanting to design your vision.
Yes.
Maybe not necessarily keeping you in line with budget and profitability of the project and the business plan of the project, because you're hiring them to design your vision. And they'll give you lots of advice for that. They also understand a general guideline of cost per square foot, which they would recommend to you. But this number does vary depending on what you're going to do and how you're going to finish it. And if you really want to get a bit more accurate, it's the next person you can call and
which is your builder.
Have a conversation with is a builder.
Yep.
Again, just like your drafting company, you want to ask if they have built any infill or multifamily projects before.
Definitely you have to do that.
This is key.
Yeah. Because you're building multiple units under the same roof. And so there's different rules than just building a normal house.
Wall separation, fire code separation, sound separation.
Yep.
Servicing servicing the lot versus just servicing to the house. It's a whole new process.
Metering, yeah, it's very different.
So for, again, more accurate information, you want to talk to a builder that has executed an infill multifamily build before.
Correct.
And you can talk to them about, potential building costs. And if they're a good builder, they'll be reluctant to tell you a cost per square foot.
They need to see those plans.
They'll say, we need to see the plans. So you feel like you're getting a little bit of a runaround.
Yeah.
But they might have some good information on suppliers you could go to see what a standard finish is and get an understanding of what you're getting with a baseline finish.
And your builder too is going to have kind of knowledge and experience of the logistics of the build. So if there's logistical issues, power lines is one that we were discussing earlier, so I'll use that as an example. But
yes,
if you've got power lines, then that may create a logistical issue that your builder has encountered in the past and recognizes. And so they can brace you for that, and you can add that to your budget so that you don't run into issues.
Yeah, and they're going to be thinking of like a staging area.
Exactly, yeah.
Are they going to be able to work on the site?
Getting in and off the site,
Yeah.
getting materials in and off the site, garbage disposal. Like, there's nuances that every builder who has done this before, they've ran into challenges in the past that they've now found solutions to, hopefully.
And also we'll run into challenges on your build because
absolutely.
there's always something new
Yeah.
that comes up. And if you are chatting with a builder that has done an infill project before, maybe instead of asking what you think the cost per square foot for your job is, ask to see the job they have done
That's a great
and what that
piece of
costs
advice.
to
Yep.
do. Because then you can get a really good idea of the visual and the cost of that project.
Yep.
And they will probably tell you, keep in mind, this was built and budgeted 1 year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, because costs go up every single year. But this is probably the closest you're going to get to an idea of costs to build.
Yeah, at least you have a starting point, and then, if you want an upgraded counter or a countertop, then okay, this is what they've paid in the past, but I wanted something more, so I'll add a premium to that.
And keep in mind, in this initial stage, you're only gathering the information you need to feel confident to start spending a little bit more money
Yep.
to get more concrete information, because it is a staged process.
Yeah,
right?
this pre-planning is kind of like a gut check. Like you're looking at a property, you're thinking about a concept, and you want to make sure you have the right concept, number one, a concept that makes sense, and then you want to get as much information as possible before you start injecting money into the project.
Now, the next person that you want to chat with, that is a development consultant.
Yes.
And this person might be a little bit harder to find because you've got...
You're talking to two right now?
Well, yes, you're talking to two right now. But a lot of them, the really good ones, they're working on massive projects in big companies because they're not cheap.
Yeah.
And they might feel like a frivolous expense in a smaller project.
Yeah.
But if you can find one that is working maybe on an hourly consulting basis, that can help give you some concepts and ideas. Actually, there's a great new program that's right across Canada that's launching here in Kelowna. I was lucky enough to be a speaker at their launch event, and it's called Middle, MDDL, and they have middle school, and it's designed around the missing middle housing. That's the whole concept of it, which is this infill housing that we're talking about.
Yeah.
So you can visit their website too, and they have consultants available. Actually, one of their consultants there. Or why don't you call into the show?
Yeah.
And give us your idea. Well, you can't call in. Text in your information.
Yeah, if you guys have a property that you want us to do a quick analysis on, that would actually be a really fun episode.
Yeah. Send us your concepts and ideas. Maybe we can pick one or two of those and help you out and talk about it on the show. You can text us at
250-862-2525. And as always, standard messaging rates apply.
Beautiful. So we're going to come back next. We're going to talk more about the development consultant, and we'll chat to you soon. Welcome back to The Real Build. I'm your host, Jamila. I got my co-host, Andrei, here with me today, and we are talking about the initial concept of developing on your own existing land, your single-family homeland. It's a huge opportunity right now to increase net worth, monthly cash flow, generational wealth, as well as fulfill maybe some things that you haven't been able to accomplish. Or you've been wanting to accomplish, like housing for family members or close friends, downsizing into something you really want instead of compromising. And if you have rental properties, adding more units to that property without even touching the original asset. So maintaining your cash flow through the entire process.
Yeah, you could probably keep your renters in there while you do it.
Absolutely.
Yep.
We're actually looking at a project right now.
Yeah.
Huge backyard.
Yep.
And we'll put 2, maybe 4 more units back there for them.
Exactly.
So then what we want to talk about is like, okay, maybe we're jogging some ideas out there for you guys. And you're like, okay, what do I do? Like, who do I talk to? Like, what do I do next? So we have been listing the different places and professionals you can engage the conversation, absolutely free for initial conversations. But we're also giving you this is what their job is. And so this is the advice they can give you back. And there may be more pieces to that other professionals can help and send you maybe in a different direction, which also may seem a bit frustrating in this initial stage. But everyone has their own piece to the puzzle.
Yeah. Yeah. So this final piece is the development consultant.
Yes.
And an easy way to think about it is they're kind of the quarterback of the development process.
I love that. The quarterback of the development process. I used to describe this as the wedding planner.
Or the wedding planner.
Of the process, right?
That works too.
They understand what the caterer's role is.
Exactly.
What the DJ's role is. What the venue's role and commitment is. And they can clearly hold everyone accountable, make sure it happens, and explain to you how it's all going to go.
Wedding planner, quarterback, same idea.
Love it.
They basically know all the moving pieces that have to, progress. And so they'll be able to manage and coordinate all of these different people in order to get you across the finish line so you can start actually building.
Yeah. So, and the reason why that a development consultant piece is important, and that not just the builder role just knows all this stuff. Unless that builder has decided to do infill projects and take on that role as well, because it's very different than just being the builder, because a builder comes to a lot that is ready to go, ready to build on. And what you're doing is you're creating a new lot, essentially, whether it's for sale or for rental.
Yeah.
And so that creation has to happen, or knowledge about that creation has to happen. And that's when we talked earlier about if there's servicing upgrades, if there is sidewalk improvements, if there's land dedication to the city, maneuvering and through a development permit process is different than maneuvering through a building permit process.
Yeah.
So having someone that also is knowledgeable in that area, which we'll find more and more that builders are going to become more knowledgeable, because there's so much going on in this space. But you as the consumer need to know that you need someone knowledgeable in both of those areas.
And I think to add to that too, a good development consultant will also do a numbers check with you in terms of, like, they'll talk to the builder and the servicing and the city and get all of your construction costs, but they'll also help you kind of on the back end on what you want to do with this property.
The business plan.
The business plan, exactly. So if you want to create more rental units, working with your development consultant to create units that maximize your revenue for that space is going to be important.
Yeah.
And so looking at resources and doing a market analysis of, hey, do I want to build really small units? Do I want to build really big units? Do I want to mix? What does that mix look like? That's where they can point you in the right direction and help you create the asset that kind of maximizes your value.
And, to talk to that, it's obvious how many condo rental buildings are being created in the city right now.
Purpose-built rentals, yeah.
So you may not want to make a 2-bedroom in your backyard.
Exactly.
The competitive inventory that will be lacking is 3-bedroom or more.
Exactly.
And so a development consultant or even just doing some research, a property management company would be really great to talk to.
That's a great spot to talk to as well.
If you're looking for rental.
Yeah.
Because they can tell you, units they have sitting, waiting for people, stuff people are asking for, average rental rates.
Yeah.
So you can judge your return on investment.
Yep. And those numbers are going to be important not just for you so that you know what you're doing, but if you're looking for financing, they're going to want to see a pro forma. They're going to want to see how much money you're putting into this thing and how much money you're expecting to get out.
Yeah.
And having those numbers dialed in is going to be, it's going to give you a lot of peace of mind going into a project.
Yeah. And if you're looking at to sell the property,
Yep.
You're going to want to go onto, do they still call it MLS or is it Realtor?
Realtor.ca.
Realtor.ca and check just townhomes, 3-bedroom. Comparables of what's listed, what prices are out there. You might want to connect with a realtor to get some market stats on recent sales of that product. And then you'll have a general idea of what it could potentially sell for in your neighborhood.
Yeah. Yeah. Getting the numbers like as close as you can at every single stage of this development is really going to be like the name of the game, at least in my eyes, is making sure that you're balancing how much it costs with how much you're getting out, and then planning for the eventualities that, hey, you're going to have cost overruns because stuff happens.
Well, and again, this is just the conceptual. You haven't paid anyone to work for you yet. You are trying to figure out if you want to spend a bit more money to nail down these details and if it's feasible. So I'm going to say the last person you need to go talk to is a lender.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
A mortgage broker.
Yep.
And again, you're going to want to ask them, have you funded construction build projects before, or are they just doing mortgages on traditional houses? You definitely want someone who has done funding for construction projects because they do require cash flow throughout it. And they can talk to you about kind of how that works. But initially, they're going to ask you for plans and a budget, and you're not there yet.
Yep.
That costs money to get to. But you're going to say, this is my house.
Yeah, you can give them conceptuals.
This is what I owe or don't owe on it. This is my savings. This is the concept so far. We think it's going to be roughly this much based on all these conversations you've had. Is this feasible for me? And potentially, if it does all these things, and you might want to open up the opportunity to have access to money to pay to do the next piece, which is design and budget out something so that you really can get some yes or no answers if you can move forward with the project. So, I mean, in a nutshell, that is all the people you can talk to gain some confidence in moving forward. Or no.
Yeah, and like we mentioned, the development consultant is, if you want to use them, they're going to be your quarterback. They're going to be able to speak this language, talk to everybody, every party associated. They're going to help you with the financials of the project all the way to the build cost. And
absolutely. So we got to wrap this up. There's so much more we could talk about this.
Definitely.
Like, we could just go on. What I would love to is hear from the audience, you guys. Do you have a project that you're considering that we can maybe talk about on air and analyze this and show people how that initial part starts? So if you want to be our guinea pig, we won't bite, we swear. Text.
You're texting to 250-862-2525.
and standard rate supply. I promise I will remember that number soon. So join us next time. Thank you for listening. And it's The Real Build.